Hey, everybody, and welcome this afternoon. It's Thursday. Jim and Amadeus in the house. And Amadeus, you're getting ready for your team playing in a couple of minutes, actually, in about 45 minutes.
Yes, my Italians are kicking off at 2:45. They're playing Spain in the semifinals of the UEFA Nations League. We saw a very exciting match yesterday as Croatia beat the Netherlands 4-2 in extra time. So
Hmm.
very high scoring one in that one. I was on the under myself, but I also had Croatia plus the half. So definitely can't complain. The Netherlands actually Croatia was dominating that second half. They were down 1-0 at halftime, and then they just came out, scored 2 goals in 20 minutes, and pretty much defended the lead. And there was 6 minutes of stoppage time, and with about like 20 seconds to go, the
Hmm.
Netherlands just crossed a ball in, got a head on it, and all of a sudden tied it up, and we were going to extra time. But by the time we got to extra time, the Netherlands just collapsed defensively. They were leaving so many holes for Croatia to exploit, and Croatia scored 2 more goals, and we'll be seeing them in the finals on the weekend.
That's cool. I mean, you got all kinds of fun going on in that game. And, today, what do you figure will happen with your team?
Yeah, so it's definitely going to be an interesting match because as we talked about yesterday or the day before, Italy they didn't play in the World Cup in December. It was kind of an
Right.
embarrassment missing the World Cup, especially when they were the Euro Cup champions, the
Hmm.
last Euro Cup, and yeah, it probably left a bad taste in their mouth having to sit back in December. Obviously, it's nice having a month off because you don't have to play league matches or anything. But at the
Hmm.
same time, it's got to leave a sour taste knowing that all your colleagues are playing on the biggest stage in the world and you're at home on the couch watching them. So
Right.
I definitely think Italy's probably going to come out with something to prove here. Now,
Hmm.
Spain does have the home advantage in this match, but
Right.
Spain is coming off that awful World Cup campaign where they blew out Costa
Hmm.
Rica 7-1 in that first match, and everybody was kind of crowning them champions of the group already. And then they drew with Germany and lost to Japan, and then fizzled out with a 0-0 draw against Morocco after penalties. So
Hmm.
definitely they haven't been playing well lately. They did play two Euro Cup qualifying matches back in March, but one was a 3-0 win over a Norway side that was missing Holland, their best player, and the other one was a 2-0 loss in Scotland, where Scotland looked like Brazil in that match. So definitely, this Spain team is very up and down. They have a very young team as well. Uh, they do play a lot better at home, so it's
Right.
going to be tougher for the Italians. But honestly, I see an under in this game. It is a bit juiced. You'd have to take the under two as opposed to the under 2.5. But
Hmm.
I do think this is probably a lower scoring match. Definitely not like the one we saw yesterday. Italy and Spain are both very good defensive teams. Spain obviously is a bit younger, but they're also missing some players here. They're lacking a lot of attacking power in their matches. Obviously, we saw in the World Cup they struggled to score goals after that match against Costa Rica. So this is definitely a Spanish team that's going to struggle to score on this good Italy defense. But the Italians, they also lack real attacking power, right? They're one of those.
Hmm.
Both Spain and Italy are kind of similar in the sense where a lot of good defensive and midfield talent, but when you get to the forwards or the attacking midfielders, it starts to taper off a bit. They have quality players, but these aren't like these aren't like your number nines. Like neither of these teams has a Holland or someone like of that caliber to put the ball in the back of the net. So it'll definitely be interesting, but I see a lower scoring match in this one for sure.
There you go. And we have a situation where um, headlines the other day were, of course, that Lionel Messi's coming to enter Miami. Uh, and then you get the interesting situation where it's expected that he will sell at least, and we're talking worldwide now, we're not just talking here in the United States or North America. He's going to sell uh, between 8 and 10 million new subscribers to Apple TV.
Really, just to watch Miami games. I mean, not a subscription I would buy just to watch Messi, but I mean, this is the things we've talked about how he can help grow the league in that way for sure.
Well, I'll tell you this. I sent a little email to our friend of mine who is named Andrew Marchand. Andrew is the um, media writer for the New York Post, and he happened to be interviewing um, Commissioner um, Don Garber and asked him about scheduling, and specifically, why do you have all your games on, and not stagger them, daytime and evening? And he said that they were going to revisit that. That was something that you know they they're not sure they could do it this year, but they're going to have to revisit it for next year. And the rationale that that Andrew brought up was, well, if you want people to watch Messi play, but at the same time catch other games, one before, one after, something like that, put a Messi sandwich together, um, then you can't do it. I mean, right now you're either going to watch Messi or you're not going to watch anybody else.
Exactly, and thank you. At least somebody watches the show.
Hmm.
Somebody up in the high ranks is watching the show and is going to revisit this issue because it's not just that. Now with Messi coming to the league, you put people in that spot where, let's say, my local team is playing at the same time as Miami, and I want to
Right,
watch Messi play, but I also want to watch my team. Now you're making
right,
me pick and choose which game I want to see,
right,
and it could lead
right,
to lopsided ratings for Miami matches as well, because then they're going to look, if all the games are at the same time as Miami's playing, they're going to look at it and say, okay, well, this game's getting a lot more viewers than
hmm,
all these other games. That's a problem.
right. And the other thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to carve out, like, say, okay, every Saturday at 4:30 you're going to see Messi. It's just like, you want to you want to pop that around a little bit. So maybe you get an early game, maybe you get a late game. So he's and in the theory of the case would be you'd try to get him in a situation where he would play every team in the league eventually.
Yes, yeah, and that's that goes towards another thing about with the expansion and how that's becoming a problem.
Right.
And really, they should break up the league into maybe more of an East and West, and that way it would help with the strength of schedule as well. Because it's not fair when you have, let's say, you have a team that has to see LAFC 4 times a year because they
Mm-hmm.
can't travel out more to see an Eastern team. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that's not fair to that team. If they missed the playoffs by 2 points and the team
Mm-hmm.
ahead of that was 2 points ahead of them, didn't have to see LAFC once at all. Like, how
Right.
is that really fair? So definitely, I think they need to revisit a lot of things. And look, I know we rag on the MLS a lot, but it's constructive criticism.
That's
I
right.
would like to see this league grow and be successful, but the way they're doing it right now is not going to lead to success, and that's why I'm calling it out. It needs to be called out, and I'm so happy to hear someone at least is listening. And we're going to revisit the scheduling
Mm-hmm.
issue because that is a big issue, and if we solve that, 100%, it's going to help Apple sell more subscriptions as well, and
Right.
everybody down the line is going to end up benefiting all the way to the player level at the clubs.
Right. I mean, if you part of this and the part of the fun of any sport is having you know, um, regional competition. But at the same time, it's like baseball and basketball and the NFL. You have your division, right? That you want to that you play and you see them all the time. But then you rotate in, teams from the West and the Midwest and through that all out. So eventually you see everybody and you play everybody. So in one
Yeah.
season you're going to play everybody. But the way they've got this thing, organized now, it's just pretty much unrealistic to have that happen.
Yeah, and you know what? Splitting the league would really help that as well. Even if you just wanted to do two leagues of 15, because right now there's
Hmm.
enough teams with the 30. It's already getting
Right.
out of hand. So you could definitely split that into, two smaller leagues of 15. Let them
Hmm.
play their seasons regionally, and then obviously we keep the playoff format for
Hmm.
the North American style, obviously. But we don't have to go convention because this is a soccer league, and if we're going to be mixing and matching, there's already no promotion relegation. It doesn't have
Right.
to be conventional playoffs in the sense of East and West, because
Right.
obviously you just played a full season where all you saw was Eastern teams and all you saw was Western teams. So
Hmm.
maybe when you get the playoffs, you do the same thing where top 8 in each conference make the playoffs, but first in the West plays eighth in the East, and then you do it
Hmm.
that way, right? Second in the West plays seventh in the East, and
Right.
and you do West versus East, so then you can bring in, now these teams aren't playing, they're not playing the same teams they saw during the season anymore, right? Now they got to face the other
Right.
leagues teams, and basically you got to go through the other league, and really that way you get the strongest teams in the final.
Right. You got to go through the gauntlet to get there, and that definitely would be it. And I think that the goal here, no pun intended, um, would be to get the best teams, as you say, in the playoffs, and then let the chips fall where they may, and it'd be fun, I think, to. I mean, you get the rivalry aspect of the regional, areas, but then when the playoffs come, there's the uncertainty of I haven't seen this team, and let's see how they're doing. Plus, you get that deal where you get your Eastern games and you can work a schedule out to watch that, and while at the same time, knowing that 10:30 or so you can watch a game. And we've already talked about stacking through maybe breaking it up for 2 days a week. Maybe have the East games on Wednesday and the West games on Thursday, and then the games on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, and it also helps with the stress of the players themselves, because now the teams don't have to travel as much if you're playing more locally or more
Hmm.
regionally east west. Because let's be honest, like US and Canada are massive countries land
Sure.
wise. Like you go to Italy, Spain, England, these teams are not traveling the distances that you have to travel to go from New York to LA. Like
Right.
it's simply the country is just massive compared to these
Hmm.
European countries. So
Right.
you can't treat it in the same sense where we're gonna have this team play every team in the country twice. Obviously that didn't work out, and now we're in this
Hmm.
situation. But you also can't have teams playing the best team 4 times in the year and then another team not even seeing the top 3 teams in the league at all.
Right. No, and I think the fun part would be the aspect of working out the schedule to make sure that you get some really good and fun games. And the fact is that what we talked about, the regionality, is that you can do like they do. I mean, here, for instance, just using baseball and football and even basketball and to some extent hockey, um, the I-95 gang, basically, where the Philly fans will travel. It's called they come into DC, and they're known as the Philly Fanatics, and so the fans are there. The Washington fans, when they go north, are because of so many lawyers, and Washington being a capital. They're called the K Street, which is where all of the lobbyists are. It's called the K Street Brigade. You've got the Mets fans, when they travel. It's called the Seven Train Army, which the Seven Train is the train that takes you out to City Field, and so yeah, they've got different fan bases, and they even got nicknames for the fans.
Yeah, definitely. Like Don Garber, if you're listening, please give us a call. Just give us
Right.
a call. I know it sounds like we trash the league a lot, but I have so many great ideas to help improve this league. Like I said, it's constructive criticism, and I could help you fix so many things from the scheduling aspect to
Mhm.
obviously the strength of schedule and just the format of the playoffs in the season. So please, if you're listening, right, you know the scheduling needs to be changed. Obviously, you're hearing us there. Please get in contact with Jim. Get my contact information from him and give me a call. Okay, we can
You
have a
got
nice
it.
meeting and let's fix the MLS. We can do
That
this. Okay,
that's
we
right.
can put it on a bigger level on the world
There you
stage.
go. It's what we want. It's what everybody wants. Um, maybe even you could probably get some of your outstanding Italian players to sneak on over here and play for some of these teams. That wouldn't be a bad idea either. Um,
Absolutely. I have other ideas too. Like if you don't want to add promotion and relegation, you could do a thing where the U.S. Open Cup, because USL teams can perform in there.
hmm
If a USL team wins the U.S. Open Cup, give them a Champions League spot, or
Right.
give them a spot in the MLS next year. You get one season.
hmm
If you win the MLS Cup, you can stay in.
hmm
Okay, you gotta give these teams some incentives. There's so many things we could do with this league. Like I said, we don't have to make it traditionally like the European leagues
hmm
because obviously this is North America and it's done a different way over here. But hey,
Right.
we can. There's a ways to mesh the two styles and make a good successful league.
I like the idea of the USF, the USL deal.
Yeah, give these guys something to play for, right? Like they don't just want to win
hmm
the cup. They can play the tournament knowing, this is our chance. We can get in the MLS here. It's not
hmm
going to be forever, but we can go play a season. And if we keep winning the MLS Cup, then we just keep our spot in the league.
Well, the
And
thing too,
that's a way of expanding it without expanding the league.
right? The same thing you could say is, they could get into the league, and if they, you know, finish above, you know, two of the quote unquote established teams, they can stay in as long as they don't finish last.
Yeah, definitely. Like there's ways to do this. Like I said, there's ways to have more clubs in there that aren't necessarily MLS clubs, but
hmm
have them as temporary spots. There's so many ways. Please give me a call, Don
Right.
Garber. I'm waiting. Okay, I'm waiting by my phone.
There you go. We're not gonna put your phone number on the screen, but yes, definitely we'll get it to them. Just a quick downshift over to baseball. Last night we saw something we haven't seen in quite a while, and that is someone stole home in the Yankees and the Mets game. Um, it was pretty wild. It was one of those. Wait a minute, the guy's actually coming home, and there he was. So yeah,
Was
and
that
we
was
had
that
some
the
walk
winning
offs
run?
last night too. We had
Was it the winning run in the Mets game that walked
no, it
in?
wasn't the winning run because it was a
Oh,
Yankee
okay.
who scored it.
Oh, okay. There you go.
But then there was Dan Plesac, who's very good about explaining things. There was a ball hit to the pitcher, bases are loaded, and he's about 30. It's exactly what he wants. Bases are loaded, two are out, ball hit right to the pitcher, and he decides he's going to come home with it. He's now standing 45 feet away from the catcher, and he airmails it. And, and 2 runs score, and they lose the game. And so Plesac is saying, and this is with a straight face, and I don't understand, but fine. He goes, it's easier to make a throw as a pitcher from the mound to the catcher than it is from either in front of the catcher, even 45 feet away, or over to the side, throwing to first base. And I'm thinking, Dan, this is, there's just, that just doesn't make sense. And he said, the thing is, the guy's used to throwing hard, so he doesn't want to throw hard. So when he throws, a softball, he tends to float it. And I mean, it's one thing to float it, but this guy missed the catcher. I mean, honest to God,
Yeah.
45 feet away, he misses the catcher? Really? So, And, I take that as a pitcher standing up for a pitcher personally, but that's the way that is.
Just throw it just throw it your 90 at him. It's fine.
Roll it. you know,
Roll like a bowling ball.
right. Just roll it and he'll catch it. He'll stand on the plate.
The old
Um,
underhander.
right. What the heck? Come on. You're just talking about creativity and in scheduling and working with the NASL. Just in this case, just hey, just lob it to him. You don't have to throw it hard. So yeah, some of that kind of stuff. Did see a guy make a pretty good catch last night in the Pirates and Cubs game where he literally ran into the wall and the ivy's grown out there. It's that time of year where the ivy is growing. But that doesn't really protect you when you hit a concrete wall. So fortunately he was okay, but I think he's going to think twice. The other thing that they have at Wrigley Field that's really not very helpful is they have one of those very short tracks. So when you get to the warning track, you really only have about a step before you hit that wall. So, since we're giving out advice to those of you in Chicago who are the grounds group, make the damn, you know, warning track and at least another foot out there just so that people know when they're going to smack into your concrete wall.
Just step onto the track and hit the wall with your next
Pretty
step.
much, yeah, exactly. Like, take one step, boing, off the wall. So it's it's one of those kind of things. But yeah, it was a pretty wild evening of some entertaining baseball. Texas came from behind and beat the Angels, and then we had the situation where on literally one day after the protest in Oakland, we have the deal where the Las Vegas City Council votes to give the A's what they wanted to build a ballpark in Vegas. So it's like, boy, these poor fans can't buy a break. I mean, they come to protest ownership, and then 24 hours later, they're picking up the newspaper seeing that that everything's been approved for the A's to go to
Yeah,
Vegas.
I don't know what the MLB is doing. How you see that and just choose to ignore it, turn a blind eye. But it's an absolute disgrace, and don't think moving a AAA team to Vegas is gonna bring a fan base or even a crew of fan base over there because it's not.
Well, here's the funny part to this. Okay, first, there's a long way to go before they can get there. All right, so that's that. The owners have to sign off on it, and I think they probably will get it. But what they're doing is Manfred said that um, they'll waive the relocation fee. Now, the relocation fee would be approximately about $500 million, and that would be split between 29 and the clubs. Obviously, the A's wouldn't get it because they're the ones moving. But if you think that Vegas is a perfect place for a new team, a new franchise would bring in probably close to 2.5 to $3 billion, which could be split among the 29, well, in that case, 30 owners. So, you know, Major League Baseball is going to have to decide, okay, well, we're giving away a prime, location. Is it worth it? The Oakland mayor and city council said they will cease, negotiating it anymore now with the A's. The A's contract with the stadium is up at 2020, after the 2025 season. So they're going to have to decide where they're going to play till 2027 when when the stadium theoretically would be built. So there's a lot of hoops to jump through before this gets over.
It's funny that you mentioned that because from a lot of the things I read when I read up these stories on the A's and what's going on over
Mm-hmm.
there, a lot of people. I like to read the comments just because I like to see what the people are saying, and a lot of the Vegas
Sure.
residents would prefer an actual expansion team over the
Right.
Oakland A's.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's very clear that like they're all for a baseball team, but they don't
Sure.
want the A's. They want their own team. So that's the other thing, right? Like you bring the A's to the Vegas, is the city going to support it? They want their own team. They know it's still the same owners who, they didn't spend money on the team. They didn't want to fork out money to build their own stadium in Oakland. Hell, they're forcing the MLB basically to relocate them by putting out a AAA team this year.
Right.
And on top of that, the MLB has to fade the relocation, or has to waive the relocation fee. Why? Because the owners don't want to spend money on it. Like,
Right.
seems to be a common theme here with the ownership.
Yeah, you think? And the other part to it is that, Oakland has supported the team whenever, they've given reason to. But
Like
you
Tuesday
just
night.
can't. Yeah, it's just a matter of, you know, it's just a matter of wanting to go. I mean, they had 27,000 there on the night that, was the protest night, and yesterday they had 7,000.
Yeah. And on that Tuesday night, they were handing out T-shirts. This was all
Right.
self-organized too. They're handing out T-shirts. People were playing cornhole, and they had the cornhole like goal
Yeah.
with a picture of Fisher on it, with his
Yeah.
mouth as the hole, and then people had designed poop emoji hacky sacks, so where they were literally throwing bags of crap into his mouth.
Very
Man, I don't know
creative
who
group
has
of
the
people
time to think of
up,
these
up there in the
things.
East Bay. Yeah, definitely a creative bunch out in the East Bay. But I mean, these people are the guys who, they've lost the Raiders, and they've lost the Warriors, and now it looks, baseball usually doesn't relocate teams easily, and they've got this lingering death deal going on in Oakland. I don't understand that one. I mean, it's taken a very long time, and I'm not sure that if I'm Vegas, I'm even trusting the A's are going to do what they say. This whole
Now, is there a thing in the MLB where like the owners can vote out another owner? Like I know the NFL has
No,
that.
no,
Yeah. Okay.
only if they violate some of the bylaws.
Okay. So at the
And
same time, the
unfortunately,
MLB's
the
hands
owners,
are kind of tied.
yeah, it's plus there's baseball has its is the only sport in the country with a full antitrust exemption. So there's a lot of things they are allowed to do that other companies or groups would never be allowed to do.
Yeah. Well, they also have the luxury tax too, and not even a salary cap.
Hmm.
So
Right.
definitely
So
doing things a little differently than the other North American leagues.
yeah, I mean, just wasting money.
It's everything with the major in it. Notice these leagues,
Right.
MLS, MLB. Why are the major leagues doing it differently than the national
National.
leagues?
We'll go with we prefer the national. And personally, I'm a National League baseball fan, so it works out better in that way. But
There you go.
so it is. But yeah, I mean, they don't have to, and they haven't had to. I mean, there's been, if you look back since 1975, when the first time that they were talking about moving the team, they're now on their eighth ownership group, and they've played in the same stadium.
And they still have the lowest payroll in baseball.
Hmm. The only time that they had a very a decent payroll was the Charlie Finley years, and that's of course the Reggie Jackson, that whole group of guys who Vida Blue. I mean, Jim Catfish Hunter. I mean, we're talking the '70s. Um, and Charlie Finley, was a guy who was a George Steinbrenner like guy. He wanted everybody to, he wanted everything was promotion. Everything was they spent money and he had a dynasty for a while. I mean, they were every year they were right there, contending for an American League championship title. So they have had decent owners, but um, I can't say in the last couple decades that is the case.
It's been a while.
Yeah, and in in looking at the Oakland City group, right, the city council and that group, I mean, they've always done everything humanly possible to make the Raiders happy, but haven't done much to make the. I mean, they literally um, reconfigured the stadium so that it was perfect for the Raiders. But anybody who watches a game that when the A's play at home, you wonder why is there 25 yards of foul ground. You know, there's, it's almost as much foul. There's almost as much distance between the third base and the dugout as there is from second base to center field. So yeah, it's there's a lot of ground cover out there, and the sight lines are not exactly the best for watching baseball. So it's definitely a football stadium that the baseball team plays in,
Yeah, and the football
and
team's
that
not
was
even there anymore.
that's right. Well, if you remember, it wasn't there. It was in Los Angeles for almost 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's not been there. It went, it came back, and you know, and then it left again. And and so the A's have been playing in a in the ghost of Al Davis's house for quite a while now. So what
Yep.
are you gonna do? So all
Yeah.
right. Any
Get rid of the
final?
A's owners. That's what you
Yeah,
gotta
there you
do.
go. Get that. We can't have Don Garber do that, but we'll get see if we can get somebody
Yes, I am serious
somebody
though. Give me a
local to
call,
talk
Don
it.
Carver. Okay, let's have a
There you
nice
go.
like hour long meeting about
A
how
nice
we can
chat.
fix this MLS.
Maybe he could. Maybe Don could fly you into New York for for lunch, and you guys could talk it out.
I'm all for it, man. I
There you
want to
go.
see the league succeed. That's all I
That's
want. And
all.
the way that you're doing it right now is not a recipe for success. It needs to be
There
fixed.
you
I'm just
go.
calling it out.
As you should. So, all right. Well, tell us where we can find all your outstanding work, my friend.
Yeah, you can get all my plays at bigowl.com and pickadvisor.com. I got a play up on the Nations League one that starts in a few minutes, and then I got some CONCACAF Nations League later. There's big,
Oh,
my
okay.
country Canada's playing, my other country Canada's playing, and your country's playing Mexico.
Right.
So big.
That
That one's
never ends
actually
well.
speaking of Vegas. That one's at Allegiant Stadium. Those two matches. So
Oh, okay.
there you go. You got some CONCACAF to watch at 7 and 10. So
Bingo.
there's that, and then I got some baseball today, and yeah, I got 3 baseball plays up.
Any afternoon affairs? Because I think a couple of them are getting ready to start.
Yeah, I'll toss everybody a free premium play. This was a premium play, but it's live right now. This is why I'll give it out. I was on the Orioles. They're tied 2-2 in the bottom of the fifth, so you can still
Okay.
get the Orioles at a pretty much even money price. It's a pretty much pick 'em. So yeah, go get the Orioles.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks a lot. We will see you for Wild and Crazy Friday, where we'll have a chance to talk a little bit about what's going on at the U.S. Open out in Los Angeles. So for Amadeus, I'm Jim. Take care, everybody.